seems like everything with Christianity is somehow contingent on the resurrection. So how do I know that that actually happened?
The New Testament presents the resurrection of Christ as an historical event. But it is possible the disciples stole the body of Christ. But let's examine them. Before Christ died on the cross, all of the disciples deserted Christ. His bravest follower, the Apostle Peter, denied knowing him 3 times. One of his 12 closest followers, Judas Iscariot, betrayed him for 30 pieces of silver. Obviously, the point is, they were not true believers. Instead, they were Christ deserters, Christ deniers, Christ betrayers. That's who they were. Christ died, and they were disillusioned. Their Jewish background taught them that there would be a resurrection, a general resurrection at the end of human history. There was nothing in their Jewish culture, in their Jewish teaching, that taught a single resurrection. So they were not expecting Christ to come back. 3 days after he dies, the eyewitness report is that he appears risen from the dead, not first of all to one of these guys. He first of all appears to a woman named Mary Magdalene. Now, if I was a first century male trying to foist a fable on my sexist, chauvinistic culture, I never would have had my first eyewitness to the resurrected Christ be a woman. But the Gospels have the ring of authenticity, as Christ first appears to a woman. And then over a period of 40 days, Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 15, which is written in the early 50s AD, Christ appeared to over 500 people who saw him risen from the dead. And here's the kicker. In 1 Corinthians 15, Paul writes, and he appeared to James. You know who James was? He was the younger brother of Christ. Do you think James believed that his older brother was God in human form? No way. But James became a leader in the first century church after the resurrection. Why? Because he saw Christ risen from the dead. Not only that, but history shows us that most of those eyewitnesses to Christ's resurrection were willing to die for what they had seen. Now, I agree, it's possible that the disciples lied. But those same disciples stood before Roman soldiers, and the Roman soldiers said, say Caesar is Lord and live, or else maintain that your Jesus is really risen from the dead and we'll kill you for it. Every single one of them said, I have seen Jesus Christ risen from the dead, and they died. Not for a belief, not for a sincere feeling. They died for what they claimed to have seen, the dead Christ risen from the dead. That kind of evidence points us to the fact that those disciples didn't engage in some Passover plot.